In the fall of 2009, nestled within the sprawling suburbs of a quiet town in Oregon, a series of events unfolded that still haunts me to this day. My name is Alex, and at the time, I was a 23-year-old recent college graduate, navigating the uncertainties of adult life. Tall and somewhat lanky, with a head full of untamable brown hair, I had always been described as observant, yet unassuming, an attribute that would soon become my greatest ally. I had just moved into a modest, two-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of town, eager to start my new job as a graphic designer. The neighborhood was known for its serene parks and a tight-knit community, a stark contrast to the bustling city life I had grown accustomed to during my college years. It started off as innocuous oddities, misplaced items within my apartment, a feeling of being watched during my late-night walks back from work, and shadows that seemed to dart away when I turned to look. At first, I brushed these off as products of my overactive imagination, fueled by the stress of adjusting to my new life. But then, the letters began to appear. The first letter was left on my doorstep, a plain white envelope with my name scrawled across it in jagged, hurried handwriting. Inside, a single sheet of paper bore the message, "I see you." Chills ran down my spine as I read those words, the simplicity of the message belying its sinister intent. Initially, I convinced myself it was a misguided joke from one of my few friends in the area, but as the letters continued to arrive, each one growing more explicit in its observations of my daily routine, the possibility of a prank quickly faded. The stalker knew things no one could have known, details about the clothes I wore, the conversations I had on my phone, even my movements within the confines of my apartment. The police were sympathetic, but explained that without a direct threat or evidence of physical harm, their ability to act was limited. Sleep became a luxury, each night a cacophony of every creak and sigh my apartment made, magnifying my paranoia. I was a prisoner in my own home, the outside world now a stage for an unseen observer who took pleasure in my growing despair. The breaking point came one crisp October evening when I returned from work to find another letter. This one was different. It contained a photo of me sleeping in my bed, taken from just outside my bedroom window. The realization that someone had been that close, watching me in my most vulnerable state, was a violation beyond words. I decided to take matters into my own hands. I invested in a security system, cameras stationed at every possible entrance, covering all angles of my apartment. Nights were spent reviewing footage, my eyes scanning for any anomaly, any clue that might lead me to the person who had stolen my peace of mind. Weeks turned into months, and slowly the letters stopped. The police theorized that my stalker had moved on, perhaps deterred by my increased security measures, or simply bored with their twisted game. Yet, the damage had been done. I was no longer the same person, forever changed by the knowledge of how easily one's sense of safety could be shattered. To this day, I still look over my shoulder, a part of me trapped in that autumn of 2009. My experience is a chilling reminder of the fragility of our privacy and the lengths to which some will go to invade it. It's a story that I share not to incite fear, but to emphasize vigilance. In our interconnected world, we are all potentially visible and thus vulnerable, under the watchful eyes of those who seek to do us harm. In the chilly embrace of late autumn in 2014, nestled within the dense forests of northern Michigan, my encounter with fear took on a form so palpable, it lingers in my psyche like a never-ending nightmare. My name is Sarah, and I was 27 years old at the time, a freelance writer who sought solitude and inspiration in the remote beauty of the wilderness. I had rented a small cabin, a quaint wooden structure overlooking a serene lake, its surface a perfect mirror to the changing leaves and endless skies. The first week passed in blissful serenity, my days filled with writing, and my evenings spent by the crackling fireplace. But as the second week dawned, an unsettling sensation crept over me, an inexplicable feeling of being watched. I first noticed it during my daily walks in the woods, the crunch of dry leaves underfoot suddenly echoing with the weight of unseen footsteps. Each rustle in the underbrush, every snap of a twig, heightened my anxiety, turning the forest I loved into a maze of paranoia. I tried to dismiss these feelings as the product of isolation, a mind starved for human interaction, conjuring phantoms. But then I found the note, a piece of paper so crudely torn it looked chewed, wedged beneath my front door. "You're never alone in the woods," it read, in handwriting that seemed to quiver with malice. My heart raced, my sanctuary violated by a stranger's ominous words. The notes continued, each more invasive than the last, detailing not just my routines, but my innermost thoughts, as if the stalker had access not only to my cabin, but to the confines of my mind. The isolation I had once craved now suffocated me. The vast wilderness transformed into a prison under the watchful gaze of an unseen tormentor. Desperate for evidence, I set up cameras around the cabin, hoping to catch a glimpse of my stalker. But the forest, with its dense canopy and shadowy underbrush, shielded my adversary too well. The only thing the cameras captured were the wild, indifferent eyes of deer and the occasional curious raccoon. My attempts to reach out for help were met with skepticism. The local police, accustomed to the tranquility of their surroundings, struggled to grasp the severity of my plight, suggesting wildlife or the wind as the culprits of my distress. The climax of my horror occurred one night when the power went out, plunging my cabin into darkness. Armed with only a flashlight, I stumbled across to the fuse box, only to find another note taped to it. "Darkness hides us both," it taunted. That night, I didn't sleep, jumping at every shadow that danced in the beam of my flashlight, every creak of the wooden structure a potential harbinger of doom. In the end, it wasn't the fear of confrontation that drove me from that place, but the realization that some battles are fought on uneven terrain. I left before dawn, the cabin and the forest swallowing my figure whole, just as they had swallowed my sense of security. The experience taught me that fear isn't just the anticipation of a threat, but the aftermath of an invasion, invisible yet indelible marks left on one's psyche. I share my story not as a cautionary tale, but as a testament to the unseen battles we sometimes face, where the enemy isn't just a person lurking in the shadows, but the shadow itself, cast long and dark across the canvas of our lives. It was during the stifling heat of a summer in 2018 that my mundane life took a turn into the realm of psychological horror. My name is Ethan, a 29-year-old software developer living in the bustling heart of Austin, Texas. Back then, I thrived on the vibrant energy of the city, its endless stream of live music, tech meetups, and the promise of opportunity. Little did I know, those crowded streets also harbored shadows where danger could hide in plain sight. My story began with an innocent misstep. I accidentally left my backpack at a local coffee shop. By the time I realized and returned, it had been turned in to the lost and found. Grateful, I thought nothing more of the incident, until I discovered a note inside, tucked away in a side pocket. "I've found you," it read, a simple message that made my skin crawl for reasons I couldn't quite articulate. Initially, I dismissed it as a joke, in poor taste. Perhaps a friend messing with me, but then the messages started appearing everywhere, on my car windshield, slipped under my apartment door, even left on my desk at work. Each note was more invasive than the last, detailing not just my daily activities, but my interactions, what I wore, and even what I ate. Someone was watching me, cataloging my life with meticulous detail. The stalker remained a phantom, a master of blending into the sea of faces that filled Austin's streets. Despite my attempts to catch them in the act, they were always one step ahead, their messages a constant reminder of their presence. The police filed reports, but without a name or a face. Their hands were tied. My apartment, once a sanctuary, became a cage. I felt eyes on me from every window, every shadow. The bustling city around me transformed into a maze of potential threats. Paranoia seeped into every crevice of my life, making me second-guess the intentions of friends and strangers alike. One evening, the situation escalated. I came home to find my apartment door ajar, the interior ransacked. Amidst the chaos, a new note sat on my kitchen counter, different from the others. This one contained a single, chilling sentence: "You can't escape me." But it was what accompanied the note that turned my blood cold, a collection of photos of me, taken over the past weeks. Some were snapped from distances, others alarmingly close, capturing moments I had believed were private. I realized then that this was no mere obsession. It was a declaration of control. The stalker didn't just want me to know I was being watched, they wanted me to feel powerless against it. The fear of what might come next drove me to drastic measures. I took a leave of absence from work, moved to a new apartment in a different part of the city, and invested in a comprehensive security system. Slowly, the messages stopped, and life began to return to some semblance of normalcy. Yet, the shadow of those months lingers. I share this story not for sympathy, but as a cautionary reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of everyday life. In our connected world, we are never truly alone, for better or for worse. My stalker remains a mystery, a ghost in the machine of urban existence, but the lesson they imparted is indelibly etched into my being. Safety is an illusion, and we are all just one step away from unseen eyes. In the quiet, fog-laden mornings of San Francisco, during the eerie calm of October 2017, my reality slowly morphed into a psychological maze from which escape seemed like a fleeting dream. My name is Mia, and at the time, I was a 25-year-old aspiring artist, living in a small, somewhat run-down apartment on the edge of the Tenderloin district. The city, with its contrasting beauty and urban decay, served as a relentless muse for my art. However, it also played host to an experience that would forever taint my view of anonymity and safety. It all began with an innocuous interaction on social media. A follower, whose profile was a canvas of abstract and hauntingly beautiful images, started engaging with my posts. Initially flattered by the attention, I welcomed the interaction, but admiration quickly spiraled into obsession. The first sign that something was amiss was a sketch left at my doorstep, a hauntingly detailed drawing of me, captured in a way that felt far too intimate, as though the artist had studied me from a distance. Accompanying the sketch was a note, the handwriting jagged and frantic. "I see the beauty in you that you cannot see in yourself." Unease settled deep within my bones, but I tried to brush it off as an overzealous fan crossing boundaries. However, the sketches continued to appear, each accompanied by notes that grew increasingly personal and intrusive. This unknown admirer detailed moments of my day that I hadn't shared online, like my visits to the corner coffee shop or the late nights spent at my easel in the dim light of my apartment. The situation escalated when I noticed someone shadowing me during my routine errands. A figure, always just out of clear view, cloaked in the city's ubiquitous mist. My attempts to confront them were futile, as they seemed to vanish into the fog, leaving me to question my sanity. Sleep became elusive, each sound in my apartment a potential harbinger of something sinister. My sanctuary had become a prison, the walls adorned with the artwork that now seemed like a beacon for my stalker. I felt eyes on me at all hours, a voyeur to my own life. The breaking point came one rain-soaked evening when I returned home to find my apartment door ajar, the space within violated. My art, once a source of pride, was defaced with obsessive declarations of love and possession. It was clear that my stalker had been here, in my most personal space, leaving their mark on everything I held dear. The police were sympathetic but hampered by the lack of concrete evidence. In the digital age, anonymity was a double-edged sword, offering protection for both the innocent and the malevolent. I was advised to tighten my online privacy and consider relocating, but the damage had been done. The sense of being watched never faded, a constant reminder of my vulnerability. In the end, I chose to leave San Francisco, seeking solace in new surroundings far from the fog-shrouded streets that had become a landscape of fear. The experience taught me the dark side of visibility, the shadow that follows when one's life is laid bare for all to see. My story is a cautionary tale, a reminder that the line between admiration and obsession is perilously thin, and that sometimes the most dangerous predators are those cloaked in the guise of adoration. In the early months of 2020, right before the world shut down, I experienced a terror that isolation only intensified. My name is Connor, a 31-year-old software engineer living in the sprawling, sleepless city of Tokyo, Japan. At the time, I was embracing the zenith of my career and the vibrant life of a metropolis that never seemed to rest. However, beneath the neon lights and amidst the endless hum of activity, a shadow began to loom over my existence, transforming my reality into a psychological thriller with me unwittingly cast as the protagonist. My ordeal began with an email, seemingly innocuous, from an unknown sender praising my work on a recent project. Flattered, I dismissed the lack of identity as a quirk of an admirer, perhaps too shy to introduce themselves. However, as days turned into weeks, the emails grew more frequent and personal, detailing not just my professional achievements, but my daily routines, favorite haunts, and even casual interactions with friends and colleagues. At first, I rationalized the situation, attributing it to perhaps a friend playing a long-winded joke. Yet, the tone of the emails shifted from admiration to entitlement, as if the sender believed they held some claim over me. They began to leave gifts at my apartment, books I mentioned wanting to read, food from restaurants I frequented, all accompanied by notes that were at once poetic and possessive. The situation escalated when I started noticing someone following me. Whether it was the crowded morning commute or a late-night walk home, the sensation of being watched became a constant companion. There was never enough evidence to confront this person, just fleeting glimpses of a figure always shrouded in the anonymity provided by the city's bustling crowds. Driven by a mix of fear and desperation, I contacted the police. However, without concrete evidence or a direct threat to my safety, their hands were tied. The advice was always the same: change your routines, enhance your privacy settings online, and stay vigilant. Isolation came with the pandemic lockdown, a period where the world seemed to hold its breath. For me, it was a double-edged sword. The relief of not having to venture outside and feel the weight of unseen eyes was tempered by the claustrophobia of my apartment. The fear that the person who had been stalking me now knew I was trapped, accessible. One night, the boundary between my stalker and me vanished. I woke to the sound of my computer activating, the screen illuminating a darkened room to reveal an email sent just moments before. It was a video, the view from my own apartment window, taken from a building adjacent to mine, zooming in to show me, in unsettling detail, going about my life, oblivious to the eyes that watched. The email contained a single line: "Even in isolation, you're never truly alone." The terror of that moment, the violation of my privacy and security, is indescribable. It was a psychological unraveling, a constant questioning of safety and sanity. I moved apartments, invested in security systems, and became a ghost in my own life, cutting ties with social media and minimizing my digital footprint. The stalker was never caught, their identity remaining as elusive as their motives. I share my story not for sympathy, but as a stark reminder of the shadows that can lurk behind the screens we gaze into daily, the unseen watchers in a world where privacy is increasingly becoming a myth. My story is a testament to the unseen horrors of the digital age, where anyone can become the target of obsession and where our connections can turn into the chains that bind us to our fears. In the serene embrace of a small New England town, amidst the backdrop of autumn's fiery palette and the tranquil descent of falling leaves, my life took a turn into a chilling narrative that felt ripped from the pages of a thriller novel. My name is Julia, and I was a 26-year-old graduate student studying literature. My life a blend of academic pursuits and the quiet enjoyment of the town's historical charm. It was October 2016, a time when the air was filled with the crisp promise of winter and the scent of burning wood from nearby homes. The quaintness of the town, usually a source of comfort, became the stage for a haunting experience that began subtly, with the faint sensation of being watched. Initially, it was just a shadow out of the corner of my eye while walking home from the library, or an inexplicable feeling of unease when sitting alone in my apartment. However, these nebulous fears soon materialized into a tangible presence, a stalker who blended into the everyday fabric of life so seamlessly that detecting them was like trying to catch smoke with my bare hands. It started with notes, left in places only someone who was meticulously observing my routine would know to leave them. The first note appeared under my door, a simple "hello" scribbled on a plain piece of paper. Innocent enough, if not for the invasive undercurrent that left me unsettled. More notes followed, each more invasive than the last, detailing not just my routines, but my interactions with friends, my clothing choices, even quoting lines from the personal journal I left carelessly open one too many times. The police were sympathetic, but emphasized the difficulty of action without a direct threat or evidence of physical harm. I was advised to keep records, change my routines, and stay vigilant. The advice felt as hollow as my hopes of a quick resolution, the legal system's hands as tied as my own. Feeling exposed and vulnerable, I turned my apartment into a fortress of locks and curtains, a prisoner in my own sanctuary. The isolation of my self-imposed confinement was suffocating, each noise a potential harbinger of my unseen tormentor daring to breach the final barriers to my privacy. Then came the photographs. Left in an unmarked envelope, they depicted moments of my daily life captured from a distance, each snapshot a violation. There I was, laughing with a friend at a cafe, deep in thought at the library, and chillingly asleep in my apartment, the latter taken from a vantage point that should have been impossible without trespassing into the sanctity of my home. The realization that my stalker was not just watching, but invading my personal space with such impunity pushed me to the brink of paranoia. Friends suggested leaving town, but the thought of running, of admitting defeat to this unseen predator, fueled my determination to stand my ground. I bolstered my defenses, invested in security cameras, and sought the help of private investigators, desperate for any lead that might unmask my stalker. The breakthrough came unexpectedly, a combination of luck and the stalker's overconfidence. A figure captured on camera, fleeting yet distinctive enough for local law enforcement to recognize. A resident known for previous, though lesser, invasions of privacy. The subsequent investigation revealed a chilling shrine to my existence, my life meticulously documented and obsessively watched, a twisted testament to the stalker's delusional attachment. The arrest brought a semblance of peace, but the scars left by the experience run deep. The quaint New England town, with its historic charm and autumnal beauty, now carries a shadow of the terror I lived. My story, a stark reminder of the fine line between safety and vulnerability, serves as a cautionary tale of the darkness that can lurk behind the facade of idyllic settings and the lengths to which obsession can drive the human psyche. In the suffocating heat of a Las Vegas summer in 2019, beneath the city's dazzling lights and the cacophony of its endless nightlife, I found myself ensnared in a chilling narrative that seemed to defy reality. My name is Michael, a 28-year-old bartender working at one of the Strip's less glamorous but popular casinos. With dark, short-cropped hair, a build kept fit by regular gym visits, and a casual demeanor, I blended easily into the vibrant tapestry of Vegas life. However, amidst the throngs of tourists and the blur of neon, a sinister presence began to weave its way into the fabric of my existence, transforming my everyday life into a waking nightmare. It began subtly, almost imperceptibly, a feeling of being watched during my shifts, fleeting glances caught in the reflection of the bar's polished surfaces, a shadow that lingered just a moment too long in the periphery. I chalked it up to the occupational hazards of working in such an environment, where observation was as much a part of the ambiance as the clinking of slot machines and the murmur of inebriated confessions. However, the sensation of being followed persisted, growing more tangible with each passing day. Notes began to appear, first in my car, a beat-up sedan I'd park in the employee lot, and then in more personal spaces. Like my mailbox, they were simple at first. "I like watching you work," one said, its letters jagged, as if carved with a tremulous hand. Another, "You move like you're part of the music." There was an eerie poetry to the words, a voyeuristic admiration that sent shivers down my spine. I reported the incidents to casino security and later to the police, but without concrete evidence or a direct threat, there was little they could do. The advice was always the same: be vigilant, vary your routines, and keep a record of everything. The turning point came one evening as I was closing up. The bar was empty, the casino's din muted by the thick walls, when I felt a cold breath against my neck, a whisper, "You're never alone." I spun around, but there was no one there, just the echo of my own rapid breathing and the distant sounds of the casino. That night I found another note, this time inside my locker, which had been locked. "I'm closer than you think," it read. The escalation was rapid after that. My apartment, once a haven from the chaos of Vegas, was broken into. Though nothing was stolen, the message was clear. Nowhere was safe. Photographs of me, taken without my knowledge, began to surface, slipped under my door, or left on my windshield. Each one a timestamp of my daily life, each one a violation of my privacy. Driven to desperation, I invested in a security system, informed my friends and colleagues, and became hyper-vigilant of my surroundings. The breakthrough came unexpectedly when a coworker noticed a patron who seemed overly interested in my schedule, taking photos when they thought no one was watching. The police were able to act on this, finally catching the stalker. A regular patron of the casino, someone who had blended into the sea of faces I saw every day. The aftermath of the stalking left deep psychological scars. The vibrant city of Las Vegas, with its promise of anonymity and escape, now felt like a prison. Every face a potential threat, every shadow a harbinger of danger. My story is a testament to the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of the most dazzling places, a reminder that sometimes the most terrifying horrors are not found in the unknown, but in the familiar, twisted into something unrecognizable by obsession. And there we have it, folks. Our journey through the shadows and into the chilling depths of human nature has come to an end. I hope these tales have sent shivers down your spine, made you glance over your shoulder, or even question the ordinary moments of your daily lives. If you've enjoyed this exploration into the darker side of the human psyche, please don't forget to hit that like button. It helps more than you know. You can always share your thoughts, feelings, or even your own creepy experiences in the comments below. We love hearing from our listeners. And if you're new here or haven't yet joined our Horror Stories family, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss out on our future tales of the macabre and mysterious. Until next time, stay safe, keep the lights on, and remember, the real monsters might be closer than you think.